Hello, and welcome to The Mind of a Therapist, a podcast where we interview psychotherapists and helping professionals on what they are passionate about in order to provide you with messages of encouragement and hope. The Mind of a Therapist is sponsored by Psychological Counseling Services, PCS, Healing Hearts and Transforming Lives. Please look into our intensive program at pcsintensive.com. I am Dr. Marcus Earle, the Clinical Director of PCS. Each episode will be hosted by me or another PCS therapist. Please enjoy the following discussion. Well, hello, I'm Dr. Marcus Earle, and I'm the host today for The Mind of a Therapist, and I'm sitting across from Agustin Hubert, which is a real pleasure for me. And Agustin, the first thing, if you'd just introduce yourself to our audience.
All right, well, I'm Agustin Hubert, as you said. I've been working here at PCS for a couple of years now. I think it started back in 2020 as an intern, then became part of the staff. I am from Argentina, so that's part of my story too. And I don't know what else goes into an introduction.
Well, that's a good one, because the soccer does interfere at times with your schedule.
100%. And you have not given me the days off when I asked. But
Right, yeah.
just kidding.
So
to watch a game or something
that.
like
This
that.
It's going to be
No.
interesting. The competitive thing came right out, didn't it?
Right.
Otherwise, a very kind spirit. So what drew you into this field?
I may have taken a longer journey to this field than others. I grew up in church my whole life. I've always had a heart for people and wanted to help. I just didn't know, in my context, therapy and being a therapist was an option. I think I remember being, 10, 11, watching Good Will Hunting and thinking that's what I want to do.
Oh my.
And then not knowing that it was an option for me. So I went from school straight into seminary, ministry work, and always had the hope that I could be doing more of the walking with people, helping people one-on-one. So I started in ministry doing that work and quickly found out that I was doing more of the teaching, was doing more of other things, administrative work or things that they were not speaking to me. Finally I, through one professor who was also a pastor and a therapist, it was the first time that I saw someone could do both.
Nice.
And so started having conversations with them. I said, how do I get to do what you do? And just kind of we had some conversations about therapy, about how therapy was not a bad thing or something that didn't go along the lines of what I knew or how I had set up my life. And so that's how then I went back to school to become a therapist and found that, through the years now, this is exactly what was on my heart all along.
Yeah. Well, certainly my experience is this seems to be natural for you. And it's so interesting to me, churches at times think that therapy is a negative thing or to be concerned about, when the church actually calls Jesus counselor. So
True.
it's all these interesting, things that come up in the church. So what are the things that you think you're enjoying the most about this work? Kind of mentioned it.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of things, but I would say right now, just being invited into people's deepest places. It never fails to surprise me, amaze me. I'll say that every Sunday I anticipate going back to starting the week and going back to work, and there's an element of, okay, it's a lot of work, and once I'm here Monday, first session, it all comes back and is that invitation into people's stories. Out of many things, I do see what we do as a collection of stories. I'm a collector of stories and people's, again, deepest parts. And so that I continue to enjoy. That hasn't gone away. I hope it never goes away. I'm newer to the field in a way. But that amazement, it's always there. I enjoy seeing people transform and change. And for some in the intensive program we do, sometimes it's very quick and fast, and you can see it. In the work that we do outside of the program, it tends to be a lot slower. And luckily now I have walked with people for 2, 3 years, 4 years, and seeing that change is also it's very honoring, humbling, and to be a part of that, I really enjoy doing that as well.
So I love what you said starting off, because I think, it's nice to have our at-home life and the ability to separate that out to where I'm a little annoyed I got to go into work.
Right.
And what I love is what you said, because I've experienced that as well, that once I get here and once I meet with somebody, then, this is great. I love what I'm doing right now.
And it hasn't happened yet where I don't do that. So even coming back from vacation, it's like, okay, here we go. And I got to tell you, within 10 minutes, it's okay. I love being here. I love doing what we do, as hard as it is, or draining in terms of
right.
the emotional work.
Yeah.
I see it as a privilege, and I really enjoy. I think that's the part I enjoy the most.
Yeah, indeed. The privilege to be in a space with people where they're being so vulnerable and talking about things that are really hard to talk about.
Yeah, and also I think I didn't have that chance, and I often think about being able to be that for people who may not have had the experience of being able to go into places where they perceive others didn't want to, or they weren't not allowed to talk about certain things. Certainly my whole childhood was mention only the good things. You show the good parts.
Yeah.
And so seeing people being able to talk about everything, and for me to be that place or holding that space for them without judgment, at times some carefronting on the other end, but for the most part just being that safe place. It's something that I recognize it's almost filling a space for me as well, healing a part of me as well.
That's awesome. So how would you describe your work? It's always a tough one, but
yeah, well, right off the bat, I will say I know I'm not the most clinical therapist, and I'm actually okay with that. Yeah. I think based on my life, and I have this on my bio at the website, but I really do believe that to be the case, which is to be a bridge. It could be maybe because I've lived in 2 different countries, in the midst of, I moved when I was 13, so I'm 35 now, a little over half of my life here, but, the whole time it was, speaking Spanish, then English, transitioning from the church world to, now doing most of my work without church people. Living in 2 different cultures, going from a third world country to, a relatively safe and comfortable country. It's been this place of, okay, I know both sides, and based on my personality and my gifts, I like to be that bridge that can hopefully connect those. And so I always say, for me, my work is, okay, where's the client right now? Where do they want to be, and how can I be, or my therapy room be a place where some of that bridge happens? And because I'm extremely less than perfect, I can understand people where they are, and hopefully also bring enough help to help them go into where they want to go. But that's probably where how I would say my job is, that bridge. Also, I'm naturally a people's person, part of my whole story, but I know that what I value the most in my practice is connection, relationship, being relational, and when I get that feedback, it's always good. I prefer that over, the insightful things or the clinical things, for sure.
Right. The presence is more important than the wisdom. So that's good. I love what you said, because, life experience has educated all of us as therapists.
Right.
And for what you've had, you've had these major life changes, being in a really uncomfortable situation when you're in an entirely new culture and had to figure that out, which seems completely overwhelming to me.
It was. I don't remember much of it, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think I was
right.
just in survival mode. But looking back, yes, yes, definitely.
So where do you think you're headed professionally?
Interesting. My boss asking me that.
Right. It's always
I
a
haven't.
dangerous question.
I
for
haven't
me.
thought about that thoroughly. I don't know. Right now, like I said, I really do enjoy the work I'm doing. I'm not at anywhere near that point where I have thought about a change or so I do like to I would like to continue getting more education around some things like somatic experiencing, for example, which as doing the work as an EMDR therapist, I'm starting to get more curious and getting at a place where I want to grow in that area, the somatic work. I know that a lot of my desire has always been with young adults and being able to probably expand or start focusing more on that population. Maybe something that's there for me in the future. But yeah, right now I haven't given. That's just kind of at the top of my head.
That's fine. I actually like the training goal because that's a lengthy training.
Yes.
That means you could be here a lot longer. So I'm loving. I know
You're not
I
getting
know,
rid of
you
me,
have-
Marcus.
So what's your experience working here? So
Yeah.
you could just comment on that.
Yeah, the way I put it, and is the way I put it. So I'll, for me, school taught me. School got me to PCS, and for me, PCS taught me how to be a therapist. And to be fair, this was kind of my only therapist job after school, so that may be part of it. But really, I do believe I came out of school knowing enough to that then here the practice began, and now I feel like PCS gave me a lot of that hands-on what it really means to be a therapist. So for me, my job here or the work that we do here is extremely important. Like I said, I love the balance between the intensive, which is fast-paced, usually very highly motivated people, many times with a lot of experience, which doesn't have to be. Certainly, we get people that are here in the intensive program because they're starting therapy and they need to catch up, to catch up or do some work, initial work. But definitely that balance between the fast-paced, you get to see it more in your face, and then the next hour you're starting with someone who may never had done therapy, or it's a lot slower, or you're just kind of really doing stabilizing work because they're in the midst of it at home. I think that provides a really good balance. I really do like here that we get deep into people's stories. I think the bittersweet part is Friday when they get to go home in the intensive, and you say, well, we got to know you really deep, and now good luck kind of thing. Although I know we do an aftercare, planning and all that, but really the relational piece is bittersweet. But working here has been everything that what I always wanted to do, like I said earlier, and I just love it. I don't know what else I can say that captures that.
I think that's great. I think the saying goodbye to clients is always difficult because you do develop that really, I think, profound relationship with them. And the nice thing is knowing that they have a lot to take with them. Yeah. To work with. And so let go and trust.
Yeah, absolutely, which is part of our job too.
Yeah, right.
I know that earlier on, and we've talked about this many times, I tend to do the work for the client and part of my codependency in that. And yeah, PCS has also, because of the way we're structured, taught me to back off a little bit and learn that, like you said, to you do the work, you trust, and you let go and you trust. And I think that's been really helpful for me as a therapist, and even more so as a person in general. So thank you for that, because I know that was one of the gifts that PCS also helped me with through the years.
I think there's a lot of growth that goes on here for me as well. It's constant. You're growing here, or you're going to get overwhelmed and probably not be here, which I love that we have that mindset here. So I think it's congruent with what we do. Well, I loved hearing that you love being here, because I certainly love having you here. Yeah. And you're great to work with, and I regularly hear about how your presence makes a difference to people. And that's just who you are. I was about to say that's that pastoral part, but actually it's who you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a role you had, and I have another role. But you as a human being is definitely a person that's engaged and present. So
and thank you for always working with. I'll speak for me, with my own strengths, and not hoping that I was something I'm not, or pushing me to be someone that I'm not. Certainly in other places where I work professionally, that was always the I would go home and think, well, I'm not what people expect me or want me to be. Certainly that has been an afterthought here. And that in part is because of how PCS is structured, how you lead, and really by my whole time here, it's been more about being who I am and growing that part of me. Which it's in part why I enjoy being here as well. So thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome. Yeah. Easy to do. Thanks for taking the time, Agustin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and hopefully there's not a whole lot of editing that has to go on.
I think not. Thanks. Please press the subscribe button, as well as rating and providing a review of our podcast. This helps others to connect with what you have been hearing. If you have any questions, please contact us at themindofatherapist@gmail.com. These questions will be kept anonymous. I want to thank Eric Price for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. Additionally, this podcast was created to provide accurate and authoritative information on the subject matter. Although we are interviewing licensed therapists, they are not your therapist. This podcast is not intended to serve as direct medical advice and should not be used as a substitute for direct professional help. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, guest, or PCS are rendering legal, medical, or clinical professional information. If you need a professional, we encourage you to find one. Visit Psychology Today to find a licensed clinician near you.